Welcome to another episode of the QUAY Insights podcast, where we bring you the very, very best in the real estate design and construction space in Vancouver. Today, I've got one of those people with me. Hasan, welcome to the show.
Matin, thanks for having me.
It's crazy how entertainment's changed since when we were kids. Like, you watched movies, TV shows, and all that, and unless you were living in Hollywood, well connected in that space, it's impossible for you to meet some of those actors and people that you see on TV.
Yeah.
But funny enough, nowadays I consume most of my entertainment on YouTube, and I was actually watching one of your videos last night talking about how the mortgage rules are changing and making it more difficult for investors to be still in the market starting next year. And now 12 hours later, we're sitting in the studio together shooting an episode. So it's crazy how that happens now.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. You're so right. Now the type of content we consume is just vastly different from when we were growing up, right?
Yeah.
We were always turning on the TV. Now the TV is on our phones, whether that's YouTube or Instagram, that's where the attention is.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why both of us are doing a lot of, videos and marketing there, because again, that's where the consumers are looking. So yeah, nice to connect with you, and I'm super excited to chat today.
How did you get started in real estate, man? Let's start there.
Yeah, so I've been a realtor for 10 years, but that really wasn't, I would say, the start of my journey. So 20 years ago, so going way back, aging myself, is when I first took the course. So I worked in telecom. I quit my job. I told my boss, I said, look, I think I was 24-ish at the time.
Yeah.
Living at home, I had an opportunity. So I said, look, I don't want to work this job anymore. I'm going to lock myself in my parents' basement and I'm going to take the course. And I did that. I made it all the way to getting ready to take the exam. I'm kind of running low on money. I'm in my mid to early 20s. All my buddies around me are still partying, spending money, and I'm kind of like to get back out there. And so what happened was I got a job offer at that time, and I basically was like, look, I got to make a decision. I took the job.
Yeah.
And that, I would say, is some level of a turning point for me, because, had I went in real estate at that time, what would that have looked like? So long story short, I took the job. I jumped from some jobs. I was an A&W franchisee for a bit. And what happened was I got to the 10-year mark from when I first took the course. And you have up until 10 years to challenge and pay. Yeah, you can pay a smaller fee and just take the exam.
Okay.
So I think I had 6 months left. I was working in the restaurants. We're in the process of selling the restaurants. I noticed that I really liked the process of selling the restaurants. I didn't like working in the restaurants. So I felt like everything was aligning towards me going to real estate. So long story short, took the exam 10 years later from when I first started, passed, and now it's been 10 years and, never looked back.
That's crazy. We all know the market in Vancouver is not in its best shape right now, but as one of the most popular realtors, how are things looking on your end in 2025?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year. I would say for myself, personally, it's been my best year so far.
Wow.
It's been my best year, but it doesn't feel like it, because it feels so frustrating and challenging. I was talking about this with another realtor the other day. I'm having a great year, but why is it that I'm feeling like everything is so much more difficult? Deals are taking so much longer. Listings are taking so much longer. Some properties you're showing 60, 70, 80 times before you get the offer that actually goes through. There's a lot of that happening in the market. Sales overall are down, overall in the market. Fraser Valley a little bit worse. But I think it really depends on who you talk to, which areas you're working, what type of product you specialize in. It's so nuanced and so varied out there. But yeah, good year, but frustrating. It doesn't feel that way. So.
That's really good to hear that it's been going well for you, because a lot of other realtors that I've spoken to, for everybody, it's been a tough year, and that trickles down to kind of design, construction as well. So that's what everybody's sentiment has been. I wanted to touch a little bit on first-time buyer market. So how do you decide whether to buy pre-sale or resale right now for a first-time buyer?
Yeah, so first-time buyer, I would say it's almost never the right move to buy pre-sale for a first-time buyer, in my opinion. I think if you're a first-time buyer and you're considering pre-sale, you should only do that if you don't have the funds today, or you don't have the mortgage approval today. And you need to basically maybe stagger the deposits. And I say this with a caveat, because you shouldn't buy and not have a plan to complete. Like you have to be able to complete at that time. So don't buy something thinking I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But if you know strongly your income's going to increase and you know, then maybe I would look at pre-sale. But I would say that, you know, people buy their first property for stability, consistency. They want, you know, a roof over their head. You don't get that. You don't know if you get that with pre-sale. You buy a pre-sale today. What if it doesn't complete? What if you
especially
don't get
these days,
right? You don't get your deposit back for a couple of years and market goes up and now you're priced out. 95% of the time, first time buyer buys something that's resale, that has a track record. Very odd circumstance, I think, for a first time buyer to buy pre-sale. Great second property, but not a first.
Especially as you said, with a lot of the developers defaulting, projects not completing, it's definitely a less risky move to go into the resale market.
100%.
Now, I know some of the neighborhoods in the current market are still seeing a lot of activity, and some of them are really showing what the market looks like, which is it's been going slow for some neighborhoods. Which neighborhoods are hot in this market right now?
I would say there's not many markets that are like hot, but there are some that are active and much more active than others.
Relatively.
Yeah, relatively. So North Vancouver, condos and townhomes doing, you know, pretty well right now, close to the seller's market. Mount Pleasant, False Creek, like Olympic Village, pretty much always does well. There's not a ton of condos there. A lot of people want to live close to Vancouver. Mount Pleasant as well. I find what happens is in slower markets when prices come down, buyers now have the opportunity to jump into locations they didn't think they did before. Getting closer to the core, getting closer to the water, getting closer to SkyTrain. So these types of areas, they tend to maintain and hold their value better because there's more buyers where maybe they're like, oh, I thought I had to buy in Burnaby, but now the pricing is such that I can get into Van. So I think as you get kind of closer to the core, you know, the prices maintain a little bit better and those markets are active.
So is that what differentiates those pocket neighborhoods for doing well, like just where they are?
So a couple things. So locate, I hate to say it, but like location. It is
it's important.
It means a lot, right? Because that's your base. That protects, if you're looking at it from an investment perspective, and you know this, that protects that if you're going to do a flip or something like that, that, you know, that value is going to hold. So location number one, and then it always comes down to quantity and supply. I say that because you might look at a place like Brentwood, great place to live, tons of condos, right?
Huge supply.
So lots of deals there, right? So the prices have come down quite significantly there. Location hasn't been enough to kind of prop up the prices. So you need those two things. A location, low supply, you're doing quite well. And Vancouver in general, not so heavy on the development compared to like Burnaby, right?
Brentwood was a bit of a bubble. I remember I used to work for developers and I had worked on a couple of condo projects as a project manager myself in that area. And like at some point the prices were on par and even more expensive than downtown Vancouver, which never made any sense to me.
Yeah.
So it's only normal that now Brentwood has come down a little bit, deservedly so, I would say. Not that it's not a nice place to be, it's just like in comparison.
Yeah. It's, you know, I love Brentwood, don't get me wrong, like very central, close to SkyTrain. Everywhere you turn is a construction site a little bit, right? Like it's long term, it's going to be a great spot, I think. Once they get there, when will they get there? I think those are the questions. But yeah, great spot. You're right. Like lots of supply there, and it's really had its impact on prices. So
yeah, it's been crazy high for a little bit, and then now it's.
Some people made a killing. Like the early Brentwood adopters, like. You know, they were purchasing 3-4 pre-sales and you know, at assignment time making 150, 200K per.
It was selling.
Right.
It was selling.
And it was selling, right?
Yeah.
And then that kind of, you know, led the development craze there. And, you know, obviously we know where we're at today.
Another hot topic that's been, you know, on everybody's minds and how it impacts real estate over the years has been the foreign buyers ban. Now we've had it instilled for some time. What's your take on it? Like, are you pro? Are you against? How do you think the foreign buyers ban have impacted the real estate market for us?
Yeah, so I'm completely against the foreign buyer ban, and I think there's a couple aspects to it in terms of its impact on the market. Like the closest data we have is from a few years ago, and it said, you know, between 2 and 5% of transactions. So you'll hear realtors all the time say, oh, it doesn't have a huge impact, et cetera, et cetera. I think that data doesn't really take into consideration how many foreign buyers were purchasing pre-sales and propping up the pre-sale market. Yeah. We didn't have a great tracking system for pre-sale buyers before, and so it was much more significant, right? You wouldn't have local firms setting up sales centers overseas for 2% of sales, right? So obviously, pre-sales, there was a lot more kind of happening there. So, and development has slowed down. So we need to kind of do something to allow development to move. Now, secondly, above that though, is the foreign buyer tax, which is provincial, which is also a huge problem because you remove the foreign buyer ban, and now people buying in BC have to pay a 20% tax. And even people that are exempt from the foreign buyer ban, they most likely have to pay this tax. So in my opinion, it has a much greater impact. I think there's things we can do because I know a lot of people watching this are going to say, well, we don't want the foreign buyers. We have to realize that, foreign buyers, the term is all encompassing. It's not just someone overseas that buys 5 condos, doesn't contribute to the economy, jacks up the rents. It's also someone, a doctor, a surgeon in the US right now that's thinking, I don't like politically what's happening here. I would love to come to Canada. I would love to buy a home right away. I would love to contribute to the economy. So I think we have to realize it's all encompassing, set some restrictions in terms of how that, how we would allow foreign buyers to purchase, quantity of units or whatnot. But long story short, I'm completely against the ban and the tax.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nuanced topic, I feel, because the sentiment for years was when the market was going up and up and up, and it did for like a solid decade or more, was everybody saying, hey, foreign buyers are coming, pushing the prices up. But as you said, those foreign buyers, more often than not, were also buying pre-sale, which allowed projects to be built, which added inventory, which in turn would also keep price stable or bring some prices down. Now that we don't have new projects coming in, that's going to be a problem in the near future. Maybe not right this minute, but...
Yeah, you bring up a good point too, because it's like a lot of the policies that we see surrounding whatever it might be, foreign buyers, Airbnb, etc., it's all reactive, right? So they watch, they see what happens. We're in the middle of something, and then a policy comes out when the market's already changing. And then it's like a double whammy, right? Because we have an impact that no one expected to have. Supply increases, whatever it is. So you're right. It's like they watch it and then they make a decision instead of kind of just letting markets kind of figure themselves out. And, rather than maybe go foreign buyer ban, and that's a great political statement, maybe the better thing to do is just to tighten up some restrictions, make some, rules surrounding it, rather than, have to do something bold and really appeal to the voters, but really it's not helping the market, and look at where we're at.
It's politics, right? At the end of the day, instead of thoughtful adjustment, it's, as you said, it's that bold statement that's going to get the votes, but it doesn't really help anybody in the long run that is really in the market understanding what that's going to do and how that's going to impact people.
Exactly,
I want to jump to another ban that we've been hit with lately. Well, I guess not so recent anymore, but that's the ban on Airbnb or short-term rentals. What kind of an impact has that had on the market for us?
I don't think it's had a large impact at all. So, when they announced this, I think they announced it back at the end of 2023. They were going to do it, first quarter at, start of second quarter of 2024. And so what happened leading up to that point is you had a bunch of people that had condos in downtown Vancouver area, furnished condos that were kind of amping up for this and saying, look, let's put these units on the market. So that's when we saw like a lot of furnished rentals. A lot of people were like, let's put this stuff on the market. And so we saw that happening then. But what was also happening at the same time was the condo supply, all these new construction projects hitting the market, right? So the way I think about it is like Airbnb ban, think of it like a small creek, like running along the side of an ocean. And then all of a sudden a tsunami hits from like Japan or something. We're not going to look at it and say, oh, that creek really did some damage, right? We're not even going to look at it. So I really don't think it had an impact. Again, I do think that sometimes politically they like to kind of stand behind that and say, look, we made this change and now rents are down. The rents are not down because of the Airbnb change. They're down because of condo supply completing, not enough buyers for it, and that product flooding the market.
Yeah, it was such a small percentage of available condos that it can't possibly have that meaningful of an impact other than in political terms.
Exactly, yeah. And like you said, it all comes down to politics, right? You learn a lot when you're tied to the real estate industry. You realize how much of legislation and policy is like, are they meant to actually do something, or are they meant to just bring in tax dollars and, sound good for the general public, right?
It's like price of gas. The gas is always down right before the elections, and as soon as
Yeah.
elections are done, it starts creeping up back to what it was before within 2 weeks. It's,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah. Now, speaking of short-term accommodation, FIFA is coming to town. That's going to be our most exciting event since the Olympics that I can recall, aside from maybe the Taylor Swift concert. So with FIFA coming to town, and I don't think we necessarily have enough hotels and regular accommodation to be sufficient for all the visitors that we're going to be having come to Vancouver. Are there going to be any changes to the rules and regulations around short-term rentals during the tournament, or have there not been any noise around that?
There's been, I guess you could say, asks of the provincial government.
Yeah.
Deloitte did a study and they basically said, look, if we don't do anything with short-term rentals, if we don't allow for it, we're going to be short. I think it was 70,000 nights, and hotel prices will increase 200%. So, this report was made, and they went to the premier and said, look, like, what are you going to do anything about this?
Yeah.
I want to be really careful how I word this, because I know I'm being recorded, but I feel like our current government, our premier, when he's put in a situation where someone questions what he's thinking or what he's doing, I feel like his first response is to battle against that and to push back.
Okay.
And to just take the contrarian and get a little bit defensive because he's put on the spot.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think, if allowed to come to his own conclusions over some time, I would like to think that they will do something, because, at the end of the day, we can't be short rooms. This is an opportunity for us, obviously, to be on the world stage. We need to build our tourism sector. We need to bring money from, other places into our province and country, while right now we have record levels of money pouring out of the country. Right, so I really hope that when not put on the spot and given some time to think about it, they will do something. But as it stands right now, they're saying no, we're not doing anything. So.
Yeah, the thoughts that follow that. For instance, I remember I was trying to go to the Qatar World Cup myself, and the accommodations, they had such few accommodations that people were paying thousands of dollars a night just to be able to book a tent or something. Just to be able to stay in the country to watch a game or two.
Yeah, that's wild.
And like just having that kind of thoughts after the tournament's complete in Vancouver, people thinking that, the hotels were like $1,000 a night, $2,000 a night. That's a bit of a nightmare scenario for us in terms of tourism for years to come.
They're going to say, I'm never coming back. They'll come one time, they saw the games that they wanted, and they'll be like, thank God that's done, I'm never coming back. And like, we can't have that.
Yeah, exactly. I want to shift the topics a little bit to what's happening with developers. I know you've had some videos recently on YouTube talking about what's going on with the developer, the new condo market. Shed a little bit of light on that. What's going on with developers right now in Vancouver?
Yeah, so it's no secret. It's a huge struggle for developers right now, especially developers that launch projects within the last couple of years. Yeah. A lot of them, they pre-sold their minimum amounts, their 65 or 70% of units, and then they held on to some, for completion time, maybe expecting that the market was going to go upwards and they can recoup some money. And obviously that didn't happen. We had a lot of changes happen across the country. Immigration gets tightened up, and now all of a sudden we have all of this supply on the market. Like we talked about, Burnaby, Surrey Central, quite a heavy amount of properties there. West Coquitlam, a lot of condos. So they're in a tough spot because they have these empty units that are extremely difficult to sell. They're competing with their own clients, people that purchased in their buildings that have now put those units on the market. Yeah. So there's kind of that competition happening, and no revenue coming in because these units aren't rented. So it's very challenging for developers. I think the developers that are okay are the ones that haven't launched projects. We haven't launched any projects that are not rental in the last few months, like right across Metro Vancouver. So nothing's getting built now, but probably in my 10 years, for sure, it's the most difficult time frame I can recall for developers.
100%.
And probably in the last 15 or 20 years.
And it's a bit of a problem on the flip side as well, because people that finish projects, or rather developers that finish projects, are unable to sell the rest of them to get their money out. And then developers that had plans to start a project are not able to do enough pre-sales to get the money that they need to actually start the project.
Yeah.
So
and they don't want to start, like, they're very fortunate if they have not started a marketing program, because what happens is when you start the marketing program, you have either 12 or 18 months, depending how many units your project is. So if you haven't started yet, you're breathing a sigh of relief, right? Because once you start launching the sales center and launching sales, it is absolutely foolish to do that right now. Like, it would take the biggest stones from a developer in Metro Vancouver. We'll throw GTA in the mix, but to actually launch a project right now, you got to have the biggest guts, because you have that year, you have that 18 months, you're not going to sell your minimum. You're going to spend all this money on marketing, you're going to hand back deposits. So yeah, like, you know, the developers that are sitting on land right now, the challenge is they're sitting on land. So the land, obviously they're paying, you know, whatever holding costs they have on it. Exactly. They don't have income coming. So you would understand that too on the developer scale, right? Like when you have something that the income's not covering, not even close, your holding costs are just burning a hole in your pocket. And so that's happening with the developers that have land that can't launch a project into this market.
And it's killing, absolutely murdering small-time developers, because the bigger guys, they can hold on to land and have enough cash reserves to be able to see that through over the next couple of years. But like small developers that have one or two pieces and they were going to launch their first couple projects, maybe like their 5th, 10th project, they're really having to, you know, let go of their staff and just close up shop, which is a problem of its own as well, because that's taking variety in terms of the supply that we were going to have. Because bigger guys, they want to build condos. They're not 100%. Interested in like small 6-story, you know, 12 unit, 15 unit projects.
Yeah. And on that note, so there's a developer amalgamation happening, right? You're seeing some developers go into receivership and bankrupt and all of these sorts of things. So there's a bit of an amalgamation. Like you said, the larger developers are still around. They're still there. They own a lot of land. They bought it a long time ago. But what's happening, I think, like kind of like right below that, is when the market's hot, you see developers kind of move up. So they do single family homes. They're like, look, we're ready to do a 4-plex. And then the 4-plex, they're like, look, we're ready to do a townhome, small townhome site. And they're scaling up. Where when the market is as it is today, I'm talking with lots of developers that have the means to do something larger, but they're saying, no, let's do a little less risk. Let's scale down. So like you mentioned, the smaller developers, they're getting crushed out, because even the developers that are right above them, that are usually building more quantity right above them, are saying, no, let's scale it down. It's kind of squeezing that developer, the smaller developer, out of the mix.
And it's only natural, because you look to your left, you look to your right, all your competitors that you were competing with at the same scale, they're both gone. And now, are you going to take a risky project on? Probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
We talked about some of the government policies and how they may have not had the most desired impact on our real estate market. What's your thoughts? Have you had any good policies that have contributed in a positive way over the last, say, 5 years?
So provincially, you know, when I look at policies, we've had a whole bunch of taxes, and then we've had a whole bunch of zoning changes. So I would focus on the zoning changes. I think the shift towards multiplex developments, taking single family lots, allowing for multi-units. While there have been some growing pains with that, there always will be, you know, I think personally that was good. That's good policy, trying to, you know, increase supply on single family lots, you know, create some more density, go against what the NIMBYs are wanting, right? The NIMBYs don't want you to, not in my backyard.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
kind of have to do those sorts of things. So I would say the multiplex policy set by the province, and then, you know, certain cities are kind of adopting them to a greater degree than others. So if I had to pick one, it would be that. If I had to pick another one, transit-oriented development, allowing for minimum story heights when you're close to SkyTrain. I really think that one of the hang-ups with our housing crisis over the last 15 years have been at the municipal level, with municipalities and cities shutting down developments that probably should have happened. So we're feeling the pain of that now. So I'll say those two policies. Not a fan of the taxes, but I am a fan of the zoning changes.
Yeah, taxes have been preventative, if anything,
Yeah.
to building, because the taxes on a new build are just so insane that sometimes just make it not feasible to continue a project.
Yeah.
But from the construction side of things and development side of things, having been on that part of the equation,
Yeah.
the idea is really good that we're like, okay, we can build more on these single family lots now, we can do more, but the permitting, even though we keep saying we're going to go faster, hasn't really kept up with the promise of, oh, we can push through these projects quickly now.
Right.
So
right.
that's still something that I'm hoping we'll get to see in the years to come, where like back in the day when we had to do a big housing push, we were like, okay, if you want to build, these 5 homes, the city accepts it, just drop the application and you can get going in a couple of weeks rather than like sitting for a single family home in a year
Right.
for
right.
permitting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's part, once that follows, I think the zoning idea is actually going to come to fruition and help us build some variety in terms of going away from condos a little bit and building homes where families can exist into and Vancouver as well. And next thing I want to chat to you about is the rental market. Now we've had for years now a big push on increased market rentals.
Yeah.
How has that impacted our real estate market?
So I think we're seeing a lot of these projects kind of at development application stage or very infancy stage. We're not seeing a ton of these purpose-built rentals that have actually completed. There have been some, but now there's a big push, right? Broadway plan happens, and now you have Kitsilano area, I think they have about 20 rental buildings that they have in the pipeline. So there's a lot of stuff that's in the pipeline that's coming, not enough to impact the the rental market today. The rental market, it is what it is with the product we currently have. But I think if we look at it from, say, a 5 or a 10-year perspective, you have 90% of projects that are being built or being proposed are rental. This is obviously going to, you would think it's going to bring rents down. Now, the other thing we have to think about, I think we really have to think about, is why are all these developers building all these rental units and rental projects when rents are coming down? Like, who would build into that? Who would want to invest into that? And I think the reality is, I've been saying for a while now, is immigration reform, it's extremely short-lived. Like, all of this stuff about, capping people coming into the country, it's not happening. It's going to happen very short term. And so that's why they are really focusing and giving incentives to developers, making it easier to get financing for rentals, because the positioning is, we're going to have population growth, and it's not going to come from our borders. Like, we're just not having kids anymore.
No.
This is a human capital race, and so they have to build the housing. They really need to expedite it, because if they don't, what happened a couple of years ago is going to happen, and they're not going to stay in power. So the long and short of it is, rents may come down because obviously there's going to be a lot of supply, but it's really going to come down to how freely they open the borders to allow people into the country again.
Yeah, inventory is a bit of a paradox in Canada, I feel, because we need more people to build more housing, but we also have an influx of people coming in, which would require more housing. So it's like a bit of a circular economy in terms of like, what do we need to do? Which direction do we need to go in first?
Yeah, and we did it wrong. So you're exactly right, right? We did it wrong. We just basically allowed everyone in, and we didn't have the housing or infrastructure or the doctors or anything. So we did it wrong, and the government knows that. And they're like, if we do that one more time, we're out. Like, we lose our jobs. So we're going to have to try and go the other way around. And that's why they're talking, prefab, modular homes, and, we're going to expedite, we're going to do 500,000 homes a year. They're not for you. Those homes are not for you. I hate to say it. This is for, people immigrating to Canada. And, the reality is Canada knows only one way to grow its economy, maybe two.
Throw people at it.
Yeah, throw people at it through immigration. Number 2, real estate. Because there's so many different hands, in that real estate market. You have the developers, the builders, you have the people working on elevators, you have, all the service workers. Our economy is so driven by it. So it's kind of those two things. And of course, the government knows that. And
real estate is now in a bad place at the moment. We have the lowest number of starts coming in, which means those jobs are going to be impacted next year and the year after.
Exactly.
And we're slowing down immigration. So on that note, what's your outlook for Vancouver real estate over the next 12 months?
So, condo market, more pain. more prices coming down, especially again in these areas where we have more supply. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens, especially with, again, these developers that are holding large amounts of vacant condos. What are they going to do when there's not enough buyers for it? Like, I got a couple calls last year from people close to developers saying, hey, Hasan, like, do you know anyone that wants to buy 40 condos? Do you have any investment groups that want to buy, like, we'll fire sale them? I'm not saying that's happening now currently, but there are conversations happening, you know, along those lines. And I think that's what we will see if and when it gets really bad. Again, if we keep immigration as tight as it is. So condo market, more pain. You know, townhome market, I think will do a little bit better. You generally have more people that are looking for that mid-grade product. And detached home, if it's entry level with a suite, I'm finding that those homes generally, they have the income helper. They're generally doing okay at protecting their price. I expect it to continue.
So over the next, I would say maybe 2026, still a bit more pain to come.
Pain to come, and I think, you know, when it comes to stratified condos, I think, you know, if you have condos right now, you want to hold on to it, you want to wait it out. I truly think 2029-ish, 2030, we're going to see the low stratified condo supply that we're not building today. It's going to basically, you know, show itself or appear at that time. So hold on.
So if you're looking to sell, hold on a few more years is what you're saying.
Hold on if you can, especially if you bought in the last 4. Like, basically, if you bought from 2021 onwards, just hold. And if you were, you know, luckily you bought a condo well before that, say 10 years ago, 12 years ago, you're doing fine anyways, right? You've close to doubled up on your profit. So honestly,
depends on where it is. Like downtown, you're getting back to like 10 years ago now. It's crazy.
We did some deals last year where we were buying them below 2017 prices. Downtown is just, it's very interesting. Like, it was supposed to be like the hot spot, obviously.
And it was for years.
And then COVID, everyone kind of shifted away from it. And because they didn't want to be close to each other and they wanted more space. But what we saw now is like people coming back to the city, but not right into downtown. They've already moved out of downtown. So they're like, okay, you know, the offices are like, well, you have to come back to work now 1 day a week. And then they're like, oh, 2 days a week. And then they're like 4 days a week. And so all these people that moved to like Abbey and Chilliwack and, you know, the Fraser Valley, they're like, we got to come back. But we didn't really love living downtown, so let's you know, let's go to False Creek or let's go Mount Pleasant, Commercial Drive, try something different.
Go downtown-ish. You
got it,
Nice. Hasan, thank you so much for your time, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. For those viewers of ours, they've obviously probably already seen you on YouTube and social media. What's the easiest way for them to find you, easiest way to reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me Instagram, TikTok at Hasan Juma, my YouTube channel, Hasan Juma Vancouver Real Estate. And you can find all my contact info online as well. Would love to chat with you.
Thanks again, man. And thank you guys for tuning in. We've got a lot more great episodes coming you guys' way every single Wednesday. Full episodes go out live on YouTube and Spotify. Stay tuned, follow, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.